Okay, understand. We're going to go Stone at 3 and we have a go for T&D.
That's affirmative.
We presently show 14 at a distance of 3,858 nautical miles from Earth. 3 hours.
Like a go for power arm.
14, Houston, your go for power arm.
Standing by for a report of separation. Our data shows that we have separation. We're at 3 hours, 3 minutes.
Okay, Houston, we've separated. Turn around and started.
Roger.
That was Al.
A couple of Parker valves.
Roger.
Houston 14.
Go ahead, Ed.
You should have the television here in a minute. There it comes.
Roger, we're not seeing it yet.
Ed Metro reporting the television should be coming through. We're receiving an image now.
We're getting a great picture now.
Okay.
We can see the drogue down toward the bottom of the picture and slightly left. You might move the camera a little bit left and down about a half a frame. That's real good, right there.
Houston, how's television look to you now? Anything I can do to the picture?
No, I wouldn't change a thing. It looks really good. It's right in the middle and steady.
Okay.
14 now. 5,168 nautical miles away from Earth.
Apollo 14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Just for your information, we've lost data with the LVDC. We don't have any procedures for you with regard to them.
Say again, Houston?
We've lost data with all data from the LVDC, but we have no change in procedures. Go ahead with normal procedures.
Okay.
That's the launch vehicle digital computer, the LVDC. We're at 3 hours, 9 minutes now into the flight. We're at 3 hours, 9 minutes, 14, presently 5,441 nautical miles away from Earth. You see Kitty Hawk moving in or docking now. We're at 3 hours, 10 minutes in flight. We show an altitude of 5,577 nautical miles.
Houston 14, you need any commentary to help you identify what you're seeing with the TV?
We're picking out things pretty well here. If you have anything for the rest of the country, you might go ahead and talk if it won't interfere with the operation there.
Okay, I'll chat for a minute. The S4B is surrounded here by typical thousands of millions of particles that came out when we separated. They look like little winking stars floating around in a very random pattern. The sunlight is shining very strongly off the top of the Lunar Module as we drift into it. Stuart's doing an excellent job of gliding in here very slowly. As you can see that our approach speed is a few tenths of a foot per second probably. And the limb is starting to get very large in our field of view, starting to cover the window of my plus X window. And the limb, the S4B, are four-sided right on our x-axis. We can see all of the orange, yellow thermal protection around the limb. The parts that are black, silver, white, the colors stand out very nicely. And I can look across Stuart.
Ed, this is Houston. About how far out in range are you now, would you estimate?
About 5 feet.
Roger.
I'll stand by on the commentary here for a moment. And Houston, we're about to dock.
Roger.
Ed Mitchell reporting they're getting ready to dock. We're at 3 hours, 13 minutes now into the flight.
We're probably a foot, 18 inches to 2 foot out now.
Roger.
We're at 3 hours, 14 minutes into the flight. We show Apollo 14 at a distance of 6,184 nautical miles.
And we docked.
Roger, we can see a slight oscillation.
Ed Mitchell reporting that Apollo 14 command module, Kitty Hawk, has docked with the Lunar Module. We're at 3 hours, 14 minutes now into the flight. Apollo 14 presently 6,318 nautical miles away from Earth.
Okay, Houston, we've hit it twice, and it sure looks like we're closing fast enough. I'm going to back out here and try it again.
Roger.
We're at 3 hours 17 minutes now into the flight. 14 now, 6,717 nautical miles away.
Well, we better back off here and think about this one, Houston.
Roger.
We're unable to get a capture.
Roger, Ed.
That's Stu Russo and Ed Mitchell reporting that, at least at this point, they're unable to get a capture. We'll stand by.
Okay, Houston, we backed out a little bit, and that last time I hit it pretty good, and we're just not getting the capture latches in there.
Roger, we suggest you verify, if you haven't already, the docking probe circuit breakers on panel 8.
That's verified.
And standby 1. And Stu, we suggest you go to extend on the docking probe, extend retract switch, and check the talkback's gray.
Okay, we did that when we extended, but we'll sure do it again.
And then back to retract.
Okay, we get both gray in the extend position.
Roger.
And we go retract in both gray.
14 Houston, one other suggestion, go to panel 229 and check the EPS group 4 circuit breaker.
Okay, it says they're both in.
Roger. 14 Houston, we're about out of ideas here. Suggest you verify you got it to switch back and retract, and then give it another try at docking.
Okay.
We're at 3 hours 20 minutes. Apollo 14 will be coming forward again for another try at docking. 3 hours 21 minutes. We show 7,372 nautical miles away from Earth.
Houston, we're starting to drift back in now.
Roger, Ed. 14 Houston.
Go ahead.
We suggest that at the initial contact that you hold +X for 3 seconds or so at least.
Okay, Houston, we tried it before, but not quite 3 seconds.
Okay.
It has a good rate coming in this time. And here we come in again.
Roger.
Okay, Houston, I hit it pretty good and held 4 seconds on contact, and we did not latch.
Roger. We're seeing it all on TV here.
You heard Stu Russo, still no latch. The crew has a period of time that they can continue with this attempt. The restricting item would be as long as we have attitude holding on the S4B. We're at 3 hours 25 minutes.
Apollo 14, Houston.
Go ahead, Houston.
For your information, that's 3 plus 34, 24. A non-propulsive vent in the booster will be sequenced on. We don't expect to see much from it. Over.
Say that again, please.
At 3 plus 34, 24. A non-propulsive vent in the booster will be sequenced open. Over.
Okay, we got you.
Okay, Houston 14, I can look in the drogue, and I can see 3 marks 120 degrees apart, like the capture latches are scratching the drogue. They're about, I don't know, 1.5 inches long, going into the hole in the drogue, spaced about 120.
Roger. 14 Houston, can you describe the scratches? Are they sharp scratches or rounded off? Over.
Well, I didn't really see that good. I can move back in, I guess. We can take a look at them. They look like fairly distinct scratches coming into the hole, but let's move up and we'll take another look.
Roger.
We're at 3 hours 29 minutes now into the flight. We show 14,683 nautical miles away.
Houston 14.
Go ahead.
Okay, Gordon, I'm sure you all are thinking along the same lines, but you know, if the capture latches were depressing as I slide into the drogue, I don't see why they would have made those marks.
Yes, that's been discussed here. We think probably something is holding them out. One possibility is a sort of a shear pin that is pulled off when the tower is jettisoned, and first look at it, we're thinking maybe that may not allow the capture latches to depress. I guess I just have to tell you to stand by while we talk it over here more.
Okay, we're nice and comfortable. and I'm just going to drift around here about this range and try not to use any more fuel than I have to.
Roger. Reminder, you have about 3 minutes till that vent will come open. Keep an eye on the booster when that happens.
Okay, how about you give me a mark on that duty?
Will do.
This is Apollo Control, Houston, 3 hours, 32 minutes. That was Stu Rusa troubleshooting with the ground. As you have heard, 14 at this point has been unable to effect a capture docking procedure with the Lunar Module. We're at 3 hours, 32 minutes. Continuing to monitor, we show Apollo 14 presently 9,151 nautical miles away from Earth. We're less than a minute now away from the time of the non-propulsive venting of the S4B.
Stu, this is Houston. That vent is due in 30 seconds.
Okay.
10 seconds. Ready, mark. It should be on now.
Man, it's beautiful.
We can see one half of it from here.
Okay, I'll back down a little bit and let you watch this.
It's lighting up the whole sky. And of course, it's the source of another 10 million particles floating out in front of us.
Roger, Ed.
I was going to say when we got busy there a little while ago, if we look out our left window across Stewart, we can see the Earth receding.
Roger.
This is Apollo Control, Houston, 3 hours, 39 minutes now into the flight of Apollo 14. Discussions continuing to take place here in Mission Control, attempting to come up with a solution to...
Houston, we observe that the S4B is slowly rotating on us now.
Roger, Ed.
Apollo Control, Houston, 3 hours, 40 minutes into the flight. Discussions are continuing in Mission Control concerning our docking problem.
Gordon, how you reading?
Loud clear, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not sure what we might be doing to the windows. Guess it's a minor problem at this point, but is everybody happy with us sitting here in this vent?
I don't think that point's been raised. Let me ask it around here.
Okay.
Apollo Control, Houston, the pacing item be the attitude control on the S4B. The battery power is the major constraining item in that. However, it does allow us a fair amount of time, approximately 6 to 8 hours. Continuing to monitor the troubleshooting operation here in Mission Control, this is Apollo Control, Houston. We presently show Apollo 14 at an altitude of 10,643 nautical miles, and we're at a ground elapsed time of 3 hours 42 minutes. This is Apollo Control, Houston, 3 hours 43 minutes into the flight. Troubleshooting continuing in Mission Control. To quickly repeat, we have unable to latch with the Lunar Module. We have quite a while to consider an approach to this problem. The battery power on the S4B is perhaps our major constraining item, allowing us perhaps 6 to 8 hours of time. However, if we're not able to extract the Lunar Module, of course the lunar landing mission would not be possible. We're at 3 hours 44 minutes continuing to monitor.
14, Houston.
Go ahead.
While we're working on the problem here, we suggest you go to a 5-degree deadband and a DAP. That'd be a DAP load of 11112 to save RGS, and nobody's come up with a good suggestion on what to do about the windows. I guess they just won't worry about it now.
All right, like I say, I think it's a minor problem.
This is Apollo Control, Houston, at 3 hours 53 minutes now into the flight. We presently show 14 at an altitude of 12,310 nautical miles away from Earth. To again go over our problem, the capture latches have not been working. One of the plans being considered here will very probably be passed along to the crew as to retract the probe and attempt to bypass the capture latches, hoping to get to the docking latches. There are 12 docking latches, and to successfully dock, we would need 3 to work. If we're not able to extract the Lunar Module, I repeat, our lunar landing mission would not be possible. It is certainly a serious problem in terms of mission itself. However, it is not that consideration in terms of crew safety at this time. We're at 3 hours 54 minutes continuing to monitor. We show Apollo 14 at 12,481 nautical miles away from Earth, and this is Apollo Control Houston.
Apollo 14, Houston.
Go ahead.
I'd like you to try one thing. Take the extend retract switch to retract and tell us what the talkbacks read in retract, if you haven't noticed before.
Okay, Gordon, you want the switch in retract and a readout of the talkback?
That's affirmative while the switch is in retract.
Roger, it's in retract now and the talkbacks are gray.
Okay.
Roger.
Okay, that tells us right there that the capture latches are indeed cocked, and that kind of says that there's something in there that's keeping us from releasing them when we go ahead and dock. And it says we cannot fire a bottle.
It just wouldn't fire. That's a true indication.
It would not.
It would not fire. Right.
This is Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours now into the flight. We, in Mission Control, continuing to troubleshoot our docking problem. The discussions still underway, both in the Mission Control Room operation floor proper and with the span or the back room experts. The capture latch has not been working. It is a problem which can be considered and discussed and played with for a while. The constraining item will be the attitude on the third stage, the S4B, and perhaps the most critical point there is the battery power, and this approximate lifetime of some 6 to 8 hours. Again, if we're not able to extract the lunar module, the basic lunar landing mission would not be possible, and of course a consideration of alternate missions would have to be made at that time. We're at 4 hours 2 minutes into the flight. We show 14 at an altitude of 13,523 nautical miles. This is Apollo Controlled Houston.
14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Another question. Can you remember back to the initial probe extension? Did you hear a thud as though it did extend out?
That's affirmative, Gordon. I guess should have mentioned that sooner. Yeah, we got the thud and we got the talkbacks going barber pole, then immediately back to gray. But we did feel the thud.
Roger, Stu.
Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours 8 minutes into the flight. We show 14 at an altitude of 14,294 nautical miles away from Earth. Discussions are continuing in the Mission Control Center concerning our docking problem. A probe and drogue model, if it has not yet been brought in, will be brought in shortly to aid in the discussions. Show 4 hours 9 minutes into the flight, continuing to monitor. This is Apollo Control Houston.
Houston 14.
14, Houston, go ahead.
Do you want me to leave the television running, or shall I take it down now?
Stand by. I'd like to leave it running, Ed. We're not seeing the booster right now. It's in the lower left corner, just barely. But we'd like to keep it running for future use.
Okay.
Houston 14 is turning the pyros and sex logic off.
Roger.
Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours 14 minutes. The color converter is off the line at the moment, being recycled. We're showing black and white at this time.
Apollo 14, Houston, over.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'd like to essentially try the docking again with the normal procedures prior to going to more drastic alternate procedures. We'd like you to reconfigure the DAP. R1 should be 11102 for docking. We'd like you to go to extend release and hold it for at least 5 seconds, and then return to retract and proceed with one more try at a normal docking, over.
Okay, we'll put a narrow deadband in and we'll go extend for 5 seconds at least and back to retract and bang it again.
Roger.
As you heard, Capcom Fullerton passed along to Stu Rusa and other crew members of 14 that we're going to make another docking attempt with the established procedures prior to reconsidering alternate plans. We're at 4 hours 16 minutes now into the flight. We show Apollo.
Houston, make your closing rate on this try, not fast, not slow, just a normal closing rate.
Okay, we'll try it. I thought that's what I had first time, but we'll give it a go. Okay, we'll try it. I thought that's what I had first time, but we'll give it a go.
Roger that. The first time looked that way to us. We just like to try it again.
Okay.
14 Houston, when you do go to extend release for the at least 5 seconds, how would you read the talkbacks to us?
Okay.
And Houston, we'd like to bring 6 Logicon, get another go for firearm.
Stand by. We're ready for Logicon.
Logic is on.
14 Houston, your go for pyro-arm.
Roger, go for pyro-arm.
Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours 19 minutes now into the flight. Apollo 14 pressing on now with another attempt at docking. We show spacecraft now at a distance of 15,821 nautical miles away from Earth. We'll stand by and continue to monitor 4 hours 19 minutes now into the flight.
Houston 14, are you ready for the extend release position of the switch?
That's affirmative. Go ahead, Al.
Okay, it's currently in retract. When extend release, I'm by mark for 5 seconds. Mark. Barber pole stayed gray, back to off. Barber pole still gray.
Roger, understand.
Back to retract. Barber pole still gray.
Roger, understand. The talkback stayed gray all the way through.
Primitive.
This is Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours 27 minutes now into the flight. We show Apollo 14 at a distance of 16,889 nautical miles away from the Earth. There has been no voice communication with the Apollo 14 crew for some time, as the 14 crew is pressing on for another attempt at docking. And in mission control, a probe and drogue assembly is on hand, and discussions are continuing here. A possible alternative. We're at 4 hours 28 minutes into the flight, continuing to monitor. This is Apollo Control Houston.
Okay, Houston, we're starting to close on it now.
Ed Mitchell making the report at 4 hours 31 minutes. They're starting to close in again at another attempt to dock with the Lunar Module. We presently show Apollo 14 at a distance of 17,453 nautical miles away from Earth.
About 4 feet out, Houston.
Roger, Ed.
Here it comes. No latch.
No latch, Houston.
Roger.
It's Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours 33 minutes. You heard that report of no latch. In the control center, we have a probe and drogue assembly. Looking very closely over it, our backup commander, Gene Cernan, along with John Young and Chet Lee, mission director, and John Llewellyn, who's one of the flight control team. We're at 4 hours 34 minutes, and we show Apollo 14 at a distance of 17,729 nautical miles.
Houston 14, I'm sure you're thinking about the possibility of going hard suit, bringing the probe inside to look at, as we are.
That's affirmative. We may have one more procedure to try prior to going to that. Stand by one out.
Okay.
That was Al Shepard, who made the suggestion, apparently being considered aboard the spacecraft, as it certainly is here in mission control, that of depressurizing the cabin and bringing the probe inside for a closer scrutiny. We're at 4 hours 36 minutes into the flight. We show 14 at a distance of 17,994 nautical miles away from Earth.
14 Houston.
Go ahead.
We'd like some more words on the exact appearance of the drogue, the scratches, and so forth. Please, over.
Okay, I'll try to give you the best. As I look at the probe, and then y'all can figure out where the docking latches are from there. But as I look at the probe in the docking position, the prominent thing are we have 3 scratches about, maybe a couple inches long. And they're really, well, the top one's about essentially 12 o'clock, maybe 11:30. And then they're spaced, equally around the ring, about 120 out. Now, there is one other scratch I didn't see before that I must have put on this last attempt. I noticed it as we backed out, and well, there are a couple other little ones, but the next prominent scratch is, at about the 7 o'clock position. It starts at the hole and runs out for about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches.
And all these scratches are radial, and they're right up at the very apex of the drogue.
Roger. Hey, Stu, this is Gino. You read?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, we got one more idea down here before doing any hard suit work, and let me throw it out at you, and you can come back with your impressions. We're thinking of attempting to dock actually without the aid of the probe, which requires some pretty fine alignment. We're thinking that maybe you could go ahead and go through a normal plus X and put the probe in a drogue, and while you're holding this will help you with your alignment, and while you're holding a plus X, go ahead and blow a bottle and try and retract the probe. Now, if the probe retracts, it should retract well out of your way so that the actual docking latches, with any luck on the alignment, should make. Now, if you get one latch, we feel we'll be fat, and we can get them all. There's one hooker. The configuration that we think you might be in, electrically, there may be a series path broken, which doesn't allow us actually to retract the probe through blowing one of those bottles. But we feel it sure is worth a chance or worth a try before we do any hard suit work.
Gino, let me see if we understand you on that. Your thought is to blow one of the bottles to retract the probe after we're lined up and just before contact, or wait until we contact and then thrusting and then retract the probe.
Okay, Al, we're thinking that actually if you use leave the probe extended until you actually contact, that any small, minute misalignment, at least in translation, left, right, up, or down, will be taken out as the probe centers in the hole of the drogue. If you can keep a plus X going at that time and then retract the probe, hopefully your alignment will stay fairly close, and we may pick up a couple of the docking latches. Now, as I said, we've got some reservations. We're not sure actually the probe is going to retract, so you might keep that in mind. But again, if it doesn't retract, we haven't lost a bottle, and if it does retract, and you do get a docking latch, we've accomplished what we wanted to.
Okay, stand by one.
This is Apollo Control Houston at 4 hours 43 minutes now into the flight. You heard the discussions between Gene Cernan now at the Capcom position and Al Shepard. The bottle reference, this a bottle of gaseous nitrogen which activates a pneumatic system that retracts the probe. This is perhaps a consideration that will be pursued at this time. We're at 4 hours 43 minutes. We presently show Apollo 14 at an altitude of 18,928 nautical miles.
Okay, Houston, we'll review what we're going to do for you, see if it's the right thing. Stu is going to make the approach close at a very slow rate till the initial contact. He's going to call out at that time and apply plus X. I will then go to the retract prime 1 position.
That's it, Al. That should do it if that probe does actually retract, and if our alignment is good enough, the possibilities are pretty good of picking up the docking latch.
Okay, your theory is it's going to retract because you feel the capture latches are locked.
No, actually the impression here is that it is not going to retract.
Okay.
Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours, 47 minutes now into the flight. Pete Frank, over the flight director's loop, advised his ECOM and his flight planning officer to consider procedures for the hard suit if we are unsuccessful in this upcoming attempt.
Hey, Houston, we're on our way in now, and we're going to try the plus X until it's, after initial contact, try the plus X until it's settled down for perhaps a second or two, and then go through the retract cycle at that time.
Roger.
Apollo Control Houston, 4 hours, 50 minutes now into the flight. Booster Systems Engineer has just advised Pete Frank, our flight director, that his predicted lifetime on the booster is 13 hours, 18 minutes. The first part of the hardware to degrade would be the batteries. That's a predicted lifetime now of 13 hours, 18 minutes on the third stage. We're at 4 hours, 51 minutes into the flight. We show Apollo 14 presently at an altitude of 19,930 nautical miles. This is Apollo Control Houston.
Houston, we're about 12 to 15 feet away.
Roger, Ed. We got a very good picture.
We got some, Houston.
I believe we got a hard dock, Houston.
Standing.
We noticed no response for perhaps 2 to 3 seconds after initiating prime retract 1. We then got barber pole on both, went gray on both at the hard dock.
Roger, Al. That's great.
Super job, Stu.
Thank you.
It didn't even wiggle when he hit it.
Apollo Control Houston, you heard that report. There was a cheer in Mission Control when that report came from Al Shepard. We're at 4 hours, 58 minutes, standing by. We show 14 at 20,700 nautical miles away from Earth.
14, Houston.
Go ahead, Houston.
Roger, we'd like you to proceed on now with the normal hatch and tunnel procedures.
That's in work, Houston. We'll keep you advised.
And Houston, I'm turning the TV off now.
Roger, Ed.
Watch the cabin pressure pretty close.
Roger.
14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Al, can you just give us a qualitative feeling of what it sounded like when those docking latches did go? Did you get a sort of a ripple bang, or are you convinced you got quite a few of them?
Yeah, it was a ripple fire, Gino. I'm convinced we got it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar, Al. It sounds like you really probably, I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see if you got them all.
Yeah, I think we got quite a few of them, Gino. It was a good hard dock.
Beautiful. Tell Stu that session he had this morning paid off.
I believe it. Yeah, we're going to buy him his present here.
Houston, Delta P at 2.0. We're starting a Delta P stable check.
Ed, would you repeat your last, please?
Roger, we're starting to check the Delta P for 3 minutes.
Roger.
Houston, Apollo 14, we have lost 1/10 of 1 pound per square inch in the Delta P gauge. During the 3-minute period, we'd like to proceed as we are.
Roger, Al. Stand by. And you're clear to go with that.
Roger, proceeding.
Apollo 14, Houston, we'd like you to verify the H2 fans off.
That's verify.
Roger.
I'll belay that, Houston. They're off now.
Roger, Ed.
This is Apollo Control Houston. We're at 5 hours, 13 minutes now into the flight of Apollo 14. The present distance reading for Apollo 14 is 22,503 nautical miles away from Earth. And following that successful hard docking, Apollo 14 is proceeding on with our basic mission plan. The crew, of course, will have a chance to look at the docking mechanism during the translunar coast period while Antares and Kitty Hawk are docked. We're at 5 hours, 14 minutes into the flight, and this is Apollo Control Houston.
Apollo 14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Have some RCS quantity numbers, just should make you feel good. You used 131 pounds so far, which is 62 pounds below nominal, but you're still 211 pounds above the red line. Over.
Apollo Control Houston, you heard those...
We used 131 pounds, 6 pounds below now. And say again, how much above red line?
Is still 211 pounds above the red line.
At Houston, we got all the docking ledges.
Roger, I understand you got them all. Very good.
I'll check it carefully now, but that's his first report.
Roger.
Those were reaction control system usage rates passed along to the crew by Capcom Gordon Fullerton. Responding from the spacecraft was Ed Mitchell. We're at 5 hours, 19 minutes now into the flight. We presently show 14 at a distance of 23,125 nautical miles away from the Earth, traveling now at a speed of 12,486 feet per second.
Okay, Houston, we got all the latches, and everything was fine. All we had to do was just tap on number 2 and 8 to lock the handle down.
Roger, Stu. If you haven't bled the nitrogen with the red button, don't for a minute here.
Oh, you caught us in time. We have not bled it.
Okay, stand by and we'll make sure that what ECOM wants to do here. (14) Houston.
Go ahead.
Okay, after a massive discussion here, we've decided to have you go ahead with the procedures as you see them in your checklist there. Verify the extend latch engaged indicator, not visible, and then go ahead and bleed the GN2.
Okay.
Apollo 14, Houston.
Oh, yeah, Houston.
Roger, in 5 to 10 minutes, the S4B fuel pressure should get up to the point where it'll vent. It's through a non-propulsive vent. Shouldn't affect you much. Over.
Okay, in 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you. And we're just about to put the hatch back in.
Roger.
Houston 14.
Go ahead, 14.
Okay, Gordon, is there, just want to make sure that we're all talking on the same frequency on this ejection and the maneuver and anything. Have we got any changes to any of those procedures?
Stand by.
I guess what I'm wondering is, after this long a time, is the S4B still in the same condition and so forth and so on?
Okay, Stu, stand by. I'll get a good summary of that.
Okay.
Now, Gordon, be advised, we're on page L37 and ready for prelim SEPA ejection.
Roger, Ed. 14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Roger, essentially, like you go through procedures and as you would have nominally, the only anomaly with the booster is right now is that we have lost the downlink from the launch vehicle digital computer, and so your visual indications of its attitude and maneuvers are the only ones that we'll have. We have no readout on booster attitude down here, and actually we've lost many of the downlink parameters on the booster. However, it shouldn't affect the evasive maneuver and targeting to impact. Over.
Okay, Gordon, that's what I was wanting to clarify before we press ahead. So we'll press right on down and as nominal and give you the call when we see it and so forth.
Roger.
This is Apollo Control at 5 hours 44 minutes. At the present time in Mission Control, we are preparing for a shift handover. Flight Director Milton Wendler is coming on to relieve Flight Director Pete Frank. That handover will occur following LEM extraction. A short while ago, Flight Director was asked when LEM extraction would occur. His response was whenever the crew is ready. The crew is proceeding to extract the LEM in the normal manner at this time, and following LEM extraction, there will be a change of shift briefing in the large auditorium in Building 1 at the Manned Spacecraft Center News Center. A short while ago also, Gene Cernan, who was on the Capcom console, made the remark following the successful docking that, paraphrasing, was something as follows. Cernan remarked that I guess that practice we had this morning in the crew quarters paid off. He was referring to a mass which was said for him and for Stu Rusa in the crew quarters at Cape Kennedy this morning. Recapping the docking situation, the docking was tried a total of 6 times before the successful hard docking occurred at 4 hours, 56 minutes, 46 seconds. On the 6th attempt, the procedure was for the 14 crew to maneuver up to the Lunar Module using the probe to align the vehicles properly, to bring the docking mechanism in proximity with the docking ring on the lunar module, and at that time to attempt to retract the probe mechanism, hoping that the docking latches would then come together, would be properly aligned, and that hard docking could occur. This, in fact, is what appeared to happen, although it is not certain at this time whether or not the docking probe did, in fact, engage and latch as it normally would, or whether the docking mechanism came together with the docking latches engaging merely by virtue of the fact that the probe mechanism was retracted. In the normal docking, the probe, which is a...
Pyro arm, please.
You have a go for pyro arm.
Okay.
The go for pyro arm indicates the crew is preparing for LEM separation. We'll continue to attempt to recap, returning to live conversation in the event the crew or the Capcom speaks up. The normal docking procedure would be for the probe mechanism to engage the drogue in the lunar module. There are 3 small latches in the tip of the probe which extend after passing through a hole in the end of the conical drogue mechanism. This is soft docking. At this time, a pneumatic system actuated by nitrogen pressurization draws the 2 vehicles together, pulling the, retracting the drogue, or rather retracting the probe, pulling the docking mechanism together and hard docking. I have a report now that the crew is thrusting -X, which would indicate that they are extracting the lunar module from the S4B at this time.
Houston, the cryo press light is the O2 tank 3.
Roger, we estimate that's probably stratification.
Roger. Sorry, it's also tank 1 and 2, just dropped down.
Roger, we saw that.
Our telemetry data indicates that the LEM is clear, that the crew is maneuvering now to the attitude for the evasive maneuver.
Apollo 14, Houston, we'll be standing by from you for that you have the S4B visually and a go for the yaw maneuver.
Okay, Gordon, it's just now coming out from behind the limb for me in the left window here. About another 15-20 seconds, we ought to have a good view of it.
Roger.
And, okay, we're well clear, Gordon, if you want to go ahead and do the yaw maneuver at your convenience.
Roger, Stu.
This is Apollo Control at 5 hours 55 minutes. The crew now maneuvering into the proper position for the APS evasive maneuver. In some of the conversation you heard reference to the fact that data from the S4B is limited, and this lack of data has complicated the...
Sent a checkout command to the booster, which looked good, so we're getting ready to start the yaw maneuver now.
Hey, why don't you give me a mark when it's coming?
All right, we'll do. 14 Houston will be commanding at 55 plus 30, about 5 seconds from now. Ready, mark.
Okay, and she's moving.
Roger, Stu.
The S4B moving into the proper position for the APS evasive maneuver. Our communications officer reported a dropout in data. They're checking to determine the cause of it. The concern mentioned previously about the controlling the S4B for the APS evasive maneuver referred to the fact that a multiplexer apparently has failed in the S4B instrument unit. The primary concern here is that in performing the maneuver, there are certain systems that flight controllers don't have as good a visibility into as they would prefer. However, the fact that the S4B responded to the yaw maneuver command properly indicates that the systems are responding as they should, and the APS evasive maneuver using the auxiliary propulsion system on the S4B will be performed as scheduled. This will be a 10 foot per second maneuver, giving the separation distance between the S4B and the lunar module, and will be supplemented by a propulsive LOX dump maneuver. The LOX dump maneuver is designed to reduce the probability of spacecraft recontact.
Away from looking at us, and it's a beautiful sight.
Roger, Stu. It sounds good to us. We had some question about our command capability, and it sounds like it's okay.
Oh yeah, she's going away from us.
Following the auxiliary propulsion system maneuver and the propulsive venting of the liquid oxygen aboard the S-4B, there will be targeted a burn determined or targeted to impact the S-4B on the lunar surface at approximately 33 degrees west and 20 degrees south, which is near the Apollo 12 landing site, and it is expected that this maneuver will be carried out as planned. You heard Stu Rusa in that last exchange report that the S-4B was responding properly to commands and appeared to be coming around in the proper attitude.
Apollo 14, Houston, would you give us Omni Delta?
Okay, you have it, Houston.
Thank you. Apollo 14, Houston.
Go ahead.
With a go from you up there, we'll plan to initiate the APS evasive burn at 6 + 04 even. Over.
Okay, yeah, it's well foresighted away from us, and we'll be standing by.
Roger.
This is Apollo Control at 6 hours, 2 minutes, 18 seconds, a little less than 2 minutes away now from the scheduled auxiliary propulsion system evasive maneuver on the S-4B. Capcom Gordon Fullerton advised the Apollo 14 crew that that maneuver would occur at 6 hours, 4 minutes, with the liquid oxygen dump scheduled to occur at 6 hours, 25 minutes, 20 seconds.
Apollo 14, Houston, the evasive maneuver should be going now. How does it look?
Right, we see the booster moving.
Roger. Now, the last thing you can do for us on this, because of our lack of determining the booster attitude, is as it fades out of view, if you can determine if it's still looking stable. Over.
Okay, we can sure handle that, and you got some venting there too as you started that maneuver.
Roger, that's normal. That was expected.
Okay.
Apollo 14, Houston, would you go to manual and wide on the high gain, but stay in Omni Delta?
Okay, you got it.
Thank you, Ed.
This is Apollo Control at 6 hours, 9 minutes. We've completed our shift handover now in Mission Control. Flight Director Milton Wendler and his team of maroon flight directors, flight controllers. The Flight Dynamics Officer has just advised the Flight Director that he does not anticipate a mid-course correction being required at the opportunity for mid-course correction 1. This would mean that the mid-course would not be made until the mid-course correction 2 opportunity. At the present time, Apollo 14 is traveling at a speed of 11,237 feet per second. Spacecraft altitude is 28,593 nautical miles. There will be a change of shift briefing in about 30 minutes. The briefing will be held in the large auditorium in the MSC News Center, Building 1.
Go ahead, 14.
Okay, Gordon, I'm sure y'all have been talking about it. You want me to press ahead with the maneuver to the P-52 attitude and go into that?
Roger, Stu, that's affirmative. We'd like you to go through with the normal procedures as shown in the flight plan down to that P-52 at 5 hours and 40 minutes. But at that point, we're going to deviate slightly in order to save some RCS. We do not want you to do the fuel cell purge or the wastewater dump. We're planning to have you, and we do not want you to do the go into PTC. At that point, we're planning to do the P-23, which will be a little early, and we'll have a new attitude for that. And then we'll go into PTC. Right now it looks like mid-course 1 is not likely to be necessary, so that we'll save one PTC spin-up that way and save some RCS. Over.
Okay, now at 550 you say do not do the fuel cell purge or wastewater dump.
That's affirmative, Stu.
Okay, we won't go.
14, Houston.
Go ahead.
Roger, as soon as you get to your attitude there, we'll be ready to uplink the new rest mat to you.
Okay.
Houston, 14, do you want me to start a battery B charge?
Stand by, Ed. Ed, that's affirmative. Go ahead with the battery B charge.
Okay.
Houston, 14.
Go ahead.
Hey, Gordon, I can got a beautiful view of the S-4B now out of the left-hand window, and she's stable as a rock.
Roger, Stu.
Houston, I've initiated battery B charge.
Roger, Ed. Would you give us Omni Charlie, Ed?
You have it?
Roger, and at about 6:25:20, the LOX dump should start on the S-4B. You might keep an eye on it at that time. I'll give you a warning about 10 seconds prior.
Okay.
Capcom Gordon Fullerton was advising the crew that the dump of the liquid oxygen remaining in the S4B will occur at 6 hours, 25 minutes, 20 seconds ground elapsed time. This is the propulsive venting of the liquid oxygen, which is aimed to increase the separation distance between the lunar module and the booster third stage, and also is targeted to impact the S4B on the lunar surface near the Apollo 12 seismometer. We're now at 6 hours, 25 minutes, some 20 seconds away from the liquid oxygen dump.
14 Houston, that LOX dump should start in about 10 seconds.
Booster reports the dump is initiated.
Apollo 14 Houston, the LOX dump should be complete now. Did you see anything of it?
It's a beautiful sight, Houston, shining from the side. It was streaming out. Tried to get a couple of Hasselblad shots of it. Really fantastic.
Roger, Al.
That was Apollo 14 Commander Al Shepard reporting a very spectacular sight with good sunlight on the liquid oxygen, particles streaming out of the nozzle of the S4B. The LOX dump is scheduled to be followed by an additional...
Step 2 and accept.
Roger, and we'd like you to try to bring up the high gain now. Use a pitch of +28 and a yaw of +317. Over.
Roger, 28317.
Once the high gain antenna is brought into play, we should see a marked increase in signal strength. The LOX dump from the S4B will be followed by an additional maneuver to target the S4B to the proper impact point. That maneuver performed with the auxiliary propulsion system.
Ed, this is Houston. We're having a little problem with our readout of high gain antenna angles here. Would you read out your onboard pitch and yaw angle?
Right, you have a pitch of +29 and yaw of about 320, 330.
Say again the yaw?
About 330.
330, Roger. 14 Houston, we have the rest mat and pinion bias 0 in there. It's your computer.
Okay.
This is Apollo Control at 6 hours, 33 minutes. We'll be coming up soon on a change of shift press briefing. At that time, we will take down the live air-to-ground circuits and record any conversations with the spacecraft for playback following the change of shift briefing. One bit of information from the flight surgeon. The flight surgeon reports that Commander Shepard's biomedical data, primarily heart rate, resumed spontaneously at 1 hour 30 minutes ground elapsed time. At that time, the Capcom asked if he did anything to fix the sensor, and Shepard replied, nope. The readings on all three crewmen during the docking attempts are approximately as follows. During most of the unsuccessful attempts, Stu Rusa, who was piloting the command module at that time, had a heart rate of about 120 beats per minute. The other two crewmen, Shepard and Mitchell, were averaging around 70 beats per minute. And during the final successful docking attempt, Rusa's heart rate went from 120 to 144. At the present time, the Apollo 14 crew is performing a program 52. This is a platform alignment. The spacecraft traveling at a velocity of 10,739 feet per second, and now at a distance of 31,236 nautical miles from Earth.
Houston 14. Houston, Apollo 14.
Apollo 14 Houston, go ahead.
Right, did you get our down 93s?
That's affirmative. We copied them.
Okay.
Ed, would you give us the torquing time?
Right, 006 40 35.
64035.
This is Apollo Control at 6 hours 45 minutes. At the present time, Apollo 14 is traveling at a speed of 10,555 feet per second and at a distance of 32,283 nautical miles from Earth. Change of shift briefing is ready to begin now in the MSC News Center. We'll record any conversations with the spacecraft during this period of time and play them back following the press briefing. Also, there will be questions from Cape Kennedy following the briefing during the course of the question and answer period. At 6 hours 46 minutes, this is Apollo Control.